Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Schlarman, and today we're going to talk about how to make a clay whistle. So you can see some examples up here. Here we have a octopus clay whistle. So it's decorative, it's beautiful, but let's talk about how it actually works. So underneath you can see that there is a cavity, so it goes through here. This part, this round part, is hollow. So then the air comes out over this 45-degree angle and creates that whistle noise. So if we want to hear what this one sounds like, I'm going to blow it. Nice whistle sound. And the change of the sound could be higher or lower depending on how big your cavity is. So here we have a cute little, looks like a cat, and you can see where the mechanism is. And you can notice that the blowhole is decorative at the top of the design. Now let's think, is this going to be a higher pitch or a lower pitch? Depending on the size, this one looks a little bigger. So it's definitely a lower sound. Here we have a cute little penguin. This design is also looking at the blow mechanism being at the top. And you can see on the back where the 45-degree angle goes. And we'll see what this pitch sounds like. Kind of in between the octopus and the cat because it's a medium-sized. Then we have this one, which is a person's head. And notice they chose to use the mechanism as the neck of the design. On the back, you can see the 45-degree angle where the air comes out from this hollow sound right here. See what this one sounds like. A little bit deeper. Now, how does it actually look like on the inside? We're going to look at this little diagram here. So if you think about this, this is where the blow mechanism is. So the shape, it basically looks almost like a pear, and it's going to travel out, so the air goes through the blowhole, comes around, and then comes out where that 45-degree angle is. And it needs to be right there at the neck of the whistle. Okay. So I'm going to set that down. Now to how to actually build one. You're going to get your clay. Once you get your clay, you're going to separate it into 2 chunks. Now, once I have the 2 chunks, I'm going to make 2 pinch pots. And to make a pinch pot, first I make a nice circle. You can do it by rolling it on the table or by rolling it together in your 2 hands. Once I have it looking like that, I like to take my knuckle and I start a center hole. And then I take it and I turn it in my hand, and basically I'm making 2 cups. I'm going to take 2 cups and then stick them together to make a ball, or a hollow ball, a sphere. So right now I've got it started, and I'm cupping my hand to keep this rounded. So I'm taking this and I'm making the sphere. Now I'm going to take both my hands, putting my thumbs in there, and I'm squeezing down at the bottom. If I squeezed right at the top, it would just make it skinny. So I have to make sure I'm down at the bottom and I'm pulling it up. So basically what I'm making is a hollow sphere. Then we're going to add in the different materials to make it a design. But the first challenge is to make your whistle actually work. And it can be challenging. Try not to get frustrated, and sometimes I have to restart multiple times to get it to actually work. So here I have just basically a cup. Okay? That's what it looks like. Then I'm going to take my other one. Now this is going to be a cup too, but it needs to have a little nib on the front of it. That little nib is going to be where you create the hole, or the blowing part where the air travels through and wraps around the inside cavity to create the whistle sound. So once I have my ball formed, I'm going to use my knuckle again to create that start. Notice how I rotate it in my hands so that I create that circular pressure. I want the same amount of material on all areas. It's almost like how they work with a wheel when you're throwing clay. You're using that circular motion to distribute the clay evenly. Put your hands in between it, pushing up from the bottom of the cup and creating that circular motion. Now, on this one, what I want to do is kind of pinch and make a nib. And that nib is going to be where I create the mouth of it. So it almost starts to look like an ice cream cone. Okay. So I've got this right here, and I turn it. So instead of turning it like this, I'm putting it in my hand to keep that nib formed as I make that circle. I'm just turning it around. And if you get cracks or anything on there, it's not that important at this stage. We'll smooth those all out when we do the final touches. But you can see some of these cracks. My nails put in cracks in the bottom. You just kind of smooth those out as you get working on it. So now you can see here's the nib part. So that's where it's going to be the part where you put the nib in to blow on. Take it around. And then I look at it and I say, do they match? Okay, a little bit. I might want to make this one just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to open it up. Opening it up by turning it in my hands. Double check. So I have basically a cup here and then a cup with a nib on it. So one has a little stand that sticks up out of it. But notice how they are not flush. They don't lay up on each other exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to shimmy off some of that material to keep them all flat. And we can use those scraps for later decorating. So I'm just kind of making it shimmy it out so it's flat. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. So I have my two cups, one with a nib, one without. And I'm going to shimmy off any excess clay. Make sure there's no little particles that get stuck in there, because this area is where the clay is going to come around and create that sound. So we want this smooth on the inside. Okay, now I'm going to make sure this one's smooth. See if they fit better. They do. Now the famous scoring and slipping. When clay dries, it's going to dry at different levels. And in order for something to stick together, we score it by making a fork marks on one side and fork marks on the other side. Then you use slip, and all slip is watered down clay. So this area will dry slower than the other areas, and then that way they'll stick together and be solid. So once I have those there, I'm going to put these two together. Okay, right now they can crumble, but as I'm sticking them together, I'm sealing that air in. And air is going to cause a support for the clay. So right now I've got it sealed shut, and then I'm going to pinch this clay together so that I don't see that seam. So I want to work with it, and sometimes I like to use the popsicle stick to kind of smear it together so it works easier. Sometimes I use the back of my thumbnail. It works nicely to smear that clay together. Okay, so I just keep working on it, sealing that together. If you don't have a hole, once it's all sealed, you can push down harder on the clay and it's not going to collapse. It won't collapse because the air inside is keeping that form and that shape. Now we've been working with clay for a while now, so what will we know if we were to put this piece in the kiln as is, with no way for the air to get out? You're right, it's going to blow up, because you need when clay dries, it shrinks, and if you don't have a area for the air to escape, it's going to crack and break. So you definitely want to make sure you always have a hole, a pinhole. It doesn't have to be real big, but somewhere for that air to escape from. So I'm just taking this around, and like I said, right now it's sealed, so I can push on it harder than I could if I wasn't. Okay, once I've got it sealed, if you're really wanting to make it perfect, you can spend a lot of time smoothing it. But now I need to flatten one side, okay? So right now, this is what it looks like, but this is what I need it to look like. So one of the sides needs to be flattened. So I'm going to take this side, and I don't push down really hard. I'm just going to take it and kind of give it that shape. I'm going to make that whistle shape. So this side kind of looks flat, but it's not like I pushed it down and got rid of all of that shape. I want it to keep and look like this shape down here. Okay. Now comes when I use my popsicle sticks. Okay, so I got this shape nice and formed. I smoothed. If you're going to do any smoothing it, do it now while the air is trapped in there, because once I put my popsicle stick into it, I'm creating a hole, which means that can cause the clay to collapse at any time. So you have to be careful. Get your shape done. Then I'm going to use just a regular popsicle stick, and I'm going to make sure it's horizontal to the table, and I'm going to insert it into the mouth of the whistle. Okay. Make sure you don't poke out the back side. Once you have it there, I'm going to hold it in my hand. My finger is supporting the popsicle stick. I've got this supported in my hand because I don't want to crush it. If I smush on it or push too hard, now it could crumble very easily. Right at the neck, right here is the neck of it. I want to first kind of go in there and make a square. So this is the square. And notice how this popsicle stick has been cut to where it's got an angle. So it's not that rounded side. And it's a 45-degree angle. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and push it all the way through. And I'm supporting that popsicle stick because that's what I'm hitting. So I'm not going all the way through. Once you have that little section, you're going to cut that out, put it over to the side. Now I'm going to make my 45-degree angle. So here's my slanted modified popsicle stick. I'm going to slant it down here, and I'm going to push it away towards the mouth of the whistle. Okay. Now, just to FYI, the first time you do this, it probably won't work, and I doubt if this one will work either, because usually you have to adjust it as you go. I can already see here that there's a little bit of clay that got pushed out of its way there. So let's see if I can fix that just a smidge. Okay. Push it back down. Okay. So, because this is what we want it to look like on the inside. I'm going to give this a test. Let's see if it worked. Ooh, you can hear it. It's almost there. So if I wanted to, I could probably touch that up a little bit. So if it's got down there, I don't want to mess up my 45-degree angle at all. There's just that little flake of clay there. Let's try it again. Ooh, that sounds good. Sometimes you either are blowing too hard or you're blowing too soft. But that sounds perfect. So I'm going to be here. Now, if I change or push on this shape too much, it's going to change my whistle. So I want to make sure that I'm using my clay very carefully and not messing it up, because now comes the fun part in decorating it. So first you need to decide what you're going to make. Let's say I'm going to make a fish. I would use some extra clay, and you can get that out of the bag. And then you're going to score and slip your design onto it. Just remember, if you don't get your whistle to work the first time, do not be frustrated, because it takes practice. And it's not an easy thing. to learn. I mean, I'm pretty shocked that that one works so easily, but then again, I have made a lot of whistles. So if you have to start over, don't get frustrated. Just keep working on it and you will get it. So how do you score and slip? You always have to put some hatch marks here and hatch marks over here. I'm going to use a little slip. That's the watered down clay. And then these are going to be my fish eyes. Okay. This is going to be, oh, need to get more slip. Fish eye over here. Once again, don't push too much on your project when you're making it. Otherwise, it's going to cause it to collapse. And then you'll be like, my whistle doesn't work. And if your whistle doesn't work before you set it up to dry and be fired, it's not going to work after. So please make sure that you are a working whistle before you set it up to dry. So what do you do if you're not finished with your whistle and it is time to clean up? Well, you're going to get a baggie and you're going to put it around a wet paper towel around your project, put it inside the bag, wrap the bag around the clay, and then write your name and your hour on the outside with a piece of masking tape. Okay, then I'm going to keep working on my fish here and I'll make it finished up. All right, good luck everyone.